The battle above Mars had lasted only 7 minutes. When it was over, the greatest warship of the Galactic Dominion was nothing more than drifting ash and metal. Across the solar system, silence followed. Billions of humans stared at their screens, not quite believing what they had witnessed. For generations, humanity had feared the idea of alien invasion. Now, for the first time, the invaders were the ones who had fallen. The message from Admiral Helena Voss spread faster than light across every human channel. "We do not kneel. We rise." Those words became a symbol. Within hours, colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan displayed the new emblem, a black star with silver wings, the mark of the Black Armada. But humanity knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion was vast, ancient, and proud. They would not forget. They would not forgive. In the command center of the Erebus, the flagship of the Armada, Admiral Voss studied the star map. Red lights marked Dominion-controlled systems. Blue represented human colonies. The difference was overwhelming. Commander Ren Kaito, her second-in-command, stood beside her. "They'll be coming," he said. "The Dominion doesn't accept defeat, especially not from a species they call primitive." Voss nodded slowly. Her face was calm, but her mind was already racing through possibilities. "Let them come," she replied. "We're done hiding. The time for shadows is over." She turned toward her officers. "Prepare Phase 2. The Dominion will strike back, and we'll be ready." Deep inside the Erebus, in hangar bays large enough to hold cities, engineers worked in silence. Rows of black ships, fighters, bombers, and drones that were checked and rearmed. Each one bore the emblem of Earth. Every pilot who stepped into the cockpit knew what they were fighting for. Not conquest, but survival. Private Juno Reyes, a young pilot from Luna Base, stared at her ship. Its sleek black hull gleamed faintly under the hangar lights. "This doesn't feel real," she whispered. Her squad leader, Captain Mason Holt, smiled. "It's real, kid. And it's only just starting." Juno nodded. She wasn't afraid. Humanity had been afraid for too long. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Dominion's High Council gathered in their Great Hall, a colossal chamber suspended above the shining spires of their capital world. GalacticPrime. The air was thick with anger and disbelief. Dozens of alien counselors shouted over one another, their voices echoing off the marble walls. "Impossible," one cried. "A primitive race destroyed a Dominion dreadnought? They must have stolen our technology," another shouted. At the center of the hall stood High Executor Vral, the same figure who had demanded Earth's surrender. His glass-like skin glowed faintly with energy as he raised a hand for silence. "Enough," he said. "This is not over. Humanity will be crushed. We will burn their worlds until nothing remains." He turned toward the Council's grand display, a holographic map of the Milky Way. "Prepare the Crimson Fleet," Vral ordered. "They will remind the humans what power truly means." The Council bowed in agreement, but none of them noticed one of their aides quietly leaving the chamber, an alien named Sareth who had once lived among humans. He had seen Earth, seen their unity, and something inside him stirred. "They won't break easily," Sareth whispered to himself as he walked away. "They are not like the others." Back near Earth, Admiral Voss was already planning the next move. The Black Armada was strong but not infinite. She needed information and time. Her fleet drifted in stealth formation near the edge of the solar system. Dozens of ships floated in the dark, their engines cold, their systems silent. From a distance, they were invisible. "Commander Kaito," Voss said, studying a holographic display of the outer colonies. "The Dominion fleet will arrive within days. If they find Earth unprotected, everything ends here." Kaito looked at her. "What do you want us to do?" Voss's eyes narrowed. "We take the fight to them." The crew around her froze. Attacking the Dominion first? It sounded impossible, but that was exactly why it would work. 2 days later, the Black Armada jumped into hyperspace. Their destination, Epsilon Gate, a massive wormhole station controlled by the Dominion. It was the main route between their space and human territory. If humanity could take the gate, they could slow the Dominion's advance and maybe even stop it. The journey through hyperspace was silent and strange. Colors beyond imagination twisted across the ship's windows. Inside the Erebus, the crew felt a mix of fear and determination. When they emerged, the Epsilon Gate filled the sky. It was enormous, a golden ring floating around a dying red star guarded by a dozen Dominion warships. Enemy fleet detected, said the sensor officer. 12 heavy cruisers, 1 command carrier, hundreds of smaller ships. Commander Kaido frowned. We're outnumbered, Voss didn't flinch. We always are. The Dominion ships turned toward them immediately, charging their weapons. But before they could fire, the Erebus sent a pulse of strange energy across the field. Every Dominion sensor flickered and went dark. Their targeting systems froze. On the Erebus bridge, technicians worked quickly. EMP field holding, one reported. Good, said Voss. All ships advance. The Black Armada surged forward in complete silence. Not one human ship fired until they were close enough to see the reflections of the Dominion's own lights. Then, light, sound, fire. Hundreds of kinetic rounds and plasma bursts filled space. Dominion ships exploded one after another, their shields collapsing under the precision of human weapons. Private Juno Reyes and her squad dived through enemy fire, weaving between explosions. We've got them, she shouted, her voice shaking with excitement. But the Dominion carrier responded with a counterstrike, releasing wave after wave of drones. Dozens of human ships were hit. The Erebus itself shuddered as energy beams grazed its hull. On the bridge, alarms blared. Shields down to 60%, someone shouted. Voss didn't hesitate. Focus all fire on the command carrier. Break their will. The Erebus turned, engines glowing with blue fire. The main cannon charged, drawing power from the ship's entire grid. Target locked, said the weapons officer. Fire, Voss commanded. A blinding beam tore through space, slicing straight through the Dominion carrier. The explosion lit up the void like a newborn star. When the light faded, nothing remained. The remaining Dominion ships began to retreat. The humans had done the impossible again. Hours later, the Erebus and the surviving ships drifted among the debris. Engineers worked to repair the damage. Pilots returned exhausted but victorious. Commander Kaido watched from the observation deck. 2 victories, he said quietly. But they'll come again stronger. Admiral Voss joined him. They will, she agreed. But every battle teaches us something. Every loss makes us faster, sharper, better. She looked out at the stars. They believe strength comes from fear. We'll show them that true strength comes from unity, from the will to protect, not destroy. Kaido smiled faintly. And if they don't listen? Voss's voice was steady. Then we'll make them listen. Far away on SCIFI-Prime, High Executive Vral received the report. His dreadnought fleet destroyed. His carrier fleet lost at Epsilon Gate. For the first time in his long rule, fear touched his heart. How? He demanded. How can they defeat us so easily? The answer came from one of his generals. Their ships move faster than light without gates. Their weapons pierce shields we believed unbreakable. And their crews, they fight with no hesitation. Vral clenched his fists. Then we'll bring everything we have. Every fleet. Every weapon. We will drown their planet in fire. But deep within his mind, a question grew. What if he was wrong? What if the humans were not a mistake in the order of the galaxy, but a force destined to change it? Back aboard the Erebus, the fleet prepared to jump again. Humanity had won 2 battles, but the war had only begun. Voss stood before her crew, her voice steady and strong. They think they know fear. They think they understand power. But they have never faced humanity when united. The Black Armada will show them that no empire lasts forever. Only courage does. The crew cheered. The engines roared, and once more the dark ships vanished into the stars. Silent shadows of steel, carrying with them the defiance of an entire world. The galaxy had not known fear for thousands of years. Empires had risen and fallen, yet the galactic dominion had always remained. But now that old balance was breaking. Humanity had stood against the dominion and survived. Not only survived, and they had won. Entire fleets of the dominion were gone, their pride shattered by a race that the Council had once called primitive. In the vast chamber of the Galactic Council, built at the heart of the shining world SCIFI-Prime, silence ruled. Rows of alien leaders sat beneath towering statues that once represented their power. But now even those statues seemed smaller, weaker, beneath the shadow of a single name that echoed through every star system. Humanity. At the center of the hall, High Executive Vral stood before the gathered counselors. His glass-like skin reflected the blue light of the chamber. Behind his calm face, anger burned. They destroyed our fleets, he said coldly. They humiliated our flag, and still they speak of peace. A murmur spread across the chamber. Some counselors nodded in agreement. Others looked uneasy. Counselor Thera of the Jethran species raised her long silver hand. Perhaps, she said softly, we should listen. The humans do not act like conquerors. They strike only when provoked. Provoked? Vral snapped. They trespassed into our space. Thera met his glare. By accident. Their science vessel was unarmed. You responded with a death sentence. What did you expect? The room fell silent again. The truth was sharp and heavy. For the first time, members of the Dominion were beginning to question their own rule. Outside the council chambers, rumors had already begun to spread. Across the galaxy, small colonies whispered the same phrase. The humans fought back. To the oppressed species under Dominion control, those words were more powerful than any weapon. They spoke of hope. On dozens of worlds, revolts began to rise. Slaves tore down banners of the Dominion, inspired by the humans who refused to kneel. Everywhere, people repeated the human message, we rise. Meanwhile, far beyond SciFi-Prime, the Black Armada sailed silently between the stars. Their engines glowed faintly blue as they crossed the edge of Dominion space. Inside the command deck of the Erebus, Admiral Helena Voss watched as holographic images of captured Dominion outposts flickered before her. 5 sectors liberated, Commander Ren Kaito reported. No civilian casualties. Dominion garrisons are surrendering faster than expected. Voss nodded. Good. We don't destroy what we can free. Kaito turned to her, puzzled. Ma'am, why not end it now? We could strike at SciFi-Prime directly. The Dominion is weak. Voss looked at him quietly. If we destroy them, we become like them. Our purpose isn't to conquer, it's to show them what they tried to make us forget. She pointed to the stars beyond the window. That humanity will never kneel, but neither will we rule by fear. In the lower decks, the crew of the Erebus gathered near the observation bay. Among them was Private Juno Reyes, the young pilot who had survived every battle since Mars. She stood with her helmet tucked under one arm, staring at the swirling galaxy outside. Captain Mason Holt joined her. You're quiet tonight, he said. Juno smiled faintly. Just thinking, sir. About Earth, about home. Do you think they know what we're doing out here? Holt chuckled softly. They know, kid. Every person on Earth is watching. Every child on the colonies knows your name. You're part of something bigger now, something that'll change the stars forever. Juno looked down. I just want this to end. I want peace, Holt nodded. That's why we fight. Not for war, but for peace that lasts. As the Erebus and its fleet moved deeper into Dominion territory, reports began to arrive from friendly sources, strange energy readings, fleets gathering near the Lyra sector, and the Dominion building something enormous. Commander Kaito approached the Admiral's station. New intelligence, ma'am. The Dominion is preparing a massive counterattack. They call it Project Rebirth. A fleet larger than anything we've seen. Voss stared at the data. So Vral still has fight in him. Yes, but it's not just ships, Kaito continued. They're building something else. A weapon. The words hung in the air. Humanity knew too well what kind of destruction a cornered empire could create. Voss stood slowly. Order the fleet to regroup at Vega Station. We'll meet them there. At the same time, on SciFi-Prime, High Executive Vral stood in the Dominion's grand shipyard. The air shimmered with energy. Before him floated the unfinished shape of a colossal ship, the Dominion Starbreaker. Its hull stretched for miles, its power drawn from captured stars. It was meant to end wars with a single shot. Beside Vral, scientists worked frantically. The weapon core is unstable, one warned. Vral's gaze hardened. Then make it stable. The humans think they can embarrass us. I will remind them what fear means. He turned toward the glowing red core. When the Starbreaker fires, Earth itself will vanish from the stars. The scientists bowed, though fear showed in their eyes. The weapon was far from ready, and dangerously unstable. But no one dared speak further. Days later, the Dominion Armada emerged from hyperspace. It filled the darkness with light and fire, thousands of ships all converging toward the Vega sector. The Erebus and the Black Armada waited for them. On the human flagship's bridge, tension was heavy. Voss stood in silence, watching as red dots covered the tactical screen. They're coming, Kaito said quietly. Voss nodded. Let them. The Dominion fleet advanced like a storm. But just as they prepared to fire, the Erebus transmitted an open message across every frequency. The entire galaxy could hear it. This is Admiral Helena Voss of the United Earth Fleet. To the Dominion and its rulers, humanity does not seek your end. We seek your awakening. You call yourselves masters, but you rule through fear. We call ourselves free because we rule through courage. The difference is everything. The speech was broadcast to billions. On dozens of Dominion-controlled worlds, enslaved populations listened. And for the first time, they dared to hope. But Vral did not listen. From his command ship, he shouted, "Fire the Starbreaker!" The superweapon began to charge. A sphere of red light grew brighter, swelling with unstable power. Space itself seemed to twist around it. On the Erebus, alarms blared. "They're charging something enormous. Can we stop it?" Kaido asked. Voss stared at the data. "No, but maybe we can redirect it." She turned to her engineers. "Prepare the graviton pulse array. Focus all energy on the Starbreaker's firing path." "Ma'am, if this fails, it won't," Voss said firmly. "It can't." The Dominion fired. A beam of pure energy cut across the void, bright as a star being born. But before it reached its target, the Erebus unleashed its counterpulse, a wave of blue light that collided with the beam mid-space. For a moment, everything froze. Then the impossible happened. The weapon's energy turned back toward the Dominion fleet. The shockwave was immense. Ships scattered, systems failed, and the Starbreaker itself began to tear apart. On Vral's bridge, chaos erupted. "Shut it down!" he roared. "It's overloading." A technician screamed. A blinding flash filled the sky, followed by silence. When it faded, half the Dominion fleet was gone, destroyed by their own weapon. On the Erebus, the crew watched in stunned silence. The stars slowly returned to view. Commander Kaido whispered, "It's over." Voss shook her head. "No. This is just the moment they begin to understand." She turned to the communication officer. "Open a channel to the Dominion Council." Moments later, her calm voice echoed through every corner of the galaxy. "Humanity does not seek revenge. But understand this, never again will we kneel. Never again will we allow tyranny to rule the stars. The age of fear is ending. The age of freedom begins." Her words spread across worlds like a new sunrise. On planets long enslaved, people rose up. Chains were broken. The Dominion's power began to crumble. Far away in the ruins of his ship, High Executor Vral stared at the stars. His empire, once eternal, was falling apart. He whispered bitterly. They were supposed to kneel. A voice behind him answered softly. It was Sareth, the former aide who had once lived on Earth. "They never kneel," Sareth said. "They rise. And maybe now it's time the rest of us learn to rise too." Back aboard the Erebus, Admiral Voss stood at the viewing deck. The galaxy before her shimmered with both light and darkness. Commander Kaido approached quietly. "What now, Admiral?" Voss smiled faintly. "Now we go home. Humanity has shown the stars who we are." She looked out at the horizon. The Black Armada will stand watch, when not as conquerors, but as guardians. Because the galaxy has seen enough rulers. What it needs now is hope. The stars reflected in her eyes like countless tiny suns. Bright, eternal, and unyielding. The galaxy had changed forever. Once the stars had been ruled by fear. Ancient empires demanded obedience. Worlds trembled beneath the weight of domination, and the word freedom was little more than a memory. But humanity had risen, not with blind wrath, but with courage, ingenuity, and unity. They had faced an empire that had stood for millennia, and they had survived. They had triumphed. The Black Armada sailed silently among the stars, a fleet both feared and revered. Ships of black metal, vast and gleaming, moved like shadows across the void. Every pilot, every crew member, carried the memory of battles won, of impossible odds overcome, and of a message that had spread farther than any weapon ever could. Humanity does not kneel. On the bridge of the flagship Erebus, Admiral Helena Voss stood before the panoramic viewport. Nebulae glimmered in the distance, and planets spun quietly in their orbits. The battles were over. The Dominion was fractured, and yet the weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders. Commander Ren Kaido approached quietly, holding a stack of reports. "We've received confirmation from multiple sectors, ma'am," he said. The Dominion fleets are retreating. Entire systems have declared independence. Civilian populations are rising up everywhere. Voss nodded, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. Good, she said softly. It was never about destruction. It was about freedom. And now the galaxy has a choice. Kaito hesitated. What about Vral? Alive, Voss replied. But powerless. And that is enough. The rest will follow if they choose life over fear. Across the shattered Dominion territories, humanity's influence spread like a new dawn. Formerly oppressed species looked to Earth as an example. They no longer feared retaliation, because the humans had shown that courage could stand against any empire. On the planet Elira Prime, millions celebrated openly. Flags with human emblems flew alongside the banners of liberated species. For the first time, a united front of civilizations gathered not under one ruler, but in cooperation. Children danced in the streets, while elders whispered stories of the humans who had dared to defy an empire older than memory. It was not a conquest but a lesson. Even the smallest of species could rise when united and determined. Back aboard the Erebus, Private Juno Reyes stood at the observation bay, staring at a newly liberated system. The war had changed her, made her stronger, more aware of the fragility of life and the strength that courage could bring. Captain Mason Holt joined her, his expression quiet. You've done well, Juno, he said. She turned to him, eyes wide. We all did, sir. But will it last? Will peace last? Holt smiled softly. It will if we remember what we fought for. Peace isn't given, it's earned. And humanity just earned it for the galaxy. Juno smiled. Somewhere deep inside she felt hope. A hope brighter than any star. On Vraxia Prime, High Executor Vral stood before the remnants of his shattered fleet. His empire had crumbled and his authority had vanished. He looked at the stars. Anger and disbelief etched on his face. Sareth, the former aide who had once served him, stepped forward. It's over, he said quietly. Humanity has shown the galaxy a different path. Vral shook his head. They were supposed to kneel, he muttered. They did not, Sareth replied gently. And perhaps now you understand why. Power through fear does not last. Strength through courage does. For the first time, Vral felt the weight of truth. Even he, long steeped in centuries of conquest, could not deny it. Humanity had not only survived, they had inspired the galaxy. Back aboard the Erebus, Admiral Voss convened her senior officers. The war had ended, but the future was still uncertain. The Black Armada would not vanish into legend, they would remain, guardians of freedom and hope. Orders? Kaito asked. Voss looked around the room. We return to Earth. We repair, we rebuild, and we share what we've learned. But we remain vigilant. The galaxy is changing and not all will embrace it easily. Our role is not to rule, but to guide, to protect, and to remind the universe that courage matters more than fear. The officers nodded, understanding the magnitude of the responsibility. In the weeks that followed, humanity began a new mission, rebuilding, uniting, and teaching. Former Dominion worlds were offered aid. Trade routes reopened. Knowledge, medicine, and technology were shared freely. In the orbital city above Mars, children from multiple species played together in peace. Schools taught history not of kings or conquerors, but of unity, bravery, and standing for what is right. Humanity had become more than just a species. They were a symbol, and yet even in the quiet, the Black Armada remained ready. Its ships patrolled distant sectors, keeping watch over the fragile peace they had helped create. They were not conquerors, not tyrants. They were guardians, shadows of steel that reminded the galaxy what humans could achieve. One day, as the Erebus glided past the outer edge of the solar system, Admiral Voss stood alone on the observation deck. She gazed at Earth, a pale blue dot surrounded by endless black. Commander Kaito joined her silently. Do you ever wonder, he said, what humanity will become? Voss smiled faintly. I don't wonder, I know. We will continue to rise. We will explore, build, and protect. We will face challenges, yes, but we will meet them together. That is what makes us human. She turned her gaze to the stars beyond, and every empire that ever doubts us will remember this day. The day humanity refused to kneel, and the day the Black Armada showed the galaxy what courage looks like. Kaito looked out at the stars with her. A new dawn, then? Yes, Voss said. A new dawn. In the outer systems, former Dominion colonies sent messages of thanks to Earth. Formerly enslaved species celebrated the humans who had risked everything to fight tyranny. Across billions of stars, the tale of the Black Armada spread, not as a story of war, but as a story of hope, courage, and defiance. And on every planet, the message remained clear: humanity kneels to no one. The galaxy had learned a powerful truth. Strength is not measured by fleets or weapons, but by the will to rise when all odds say you should fall. Humanity had risen. The Dominion had fallen, and a new era had begun, one where courage, unity, and hope would shine brighter than any star. The Black Armada sailed into the unknown, guardians of a galaxy that would never forget the night humanity refused to bow. The legend of the humans would endure, whispered in every corner of the stars, a reminder to all: freedom is worth fighting for, and courage can change the universe. The Galactic Union was vast, an empire of 1,000 species, stretching across light years of space. For centuries, they had ruled the stars with calm arrogance, believing themselves the peak of civilization. Then, one small blue planet appeared on their radar: Earth. Humanity had reached the stars far later than anyone else. Their ships were small, their technology crude, their understanding of physics still limited. Yet somehow they had managed to send diplomats through wormhole gates, asking for membership in the Great Union. It was seen as amusing by the higher species. Primitive beings asking to join the rulers of the galaxy. To the Union, it was like a group of children trying to sit at the table of kings. Still, the Union accepted. They saw humans as harmless and maybe useful. The application was approved, but not with honor. The Council's voice, an ancient being of crystalline light called the High Speaker, announced Earth's acceptance during a meeting broadcast across the galaxy. "Let it be known," the High Speaker said, his voice cold and shining, "that the humans of Earth are now a minor auxiliary member of the Galactic Union. As a gesture of goodwill, they will be granted stewardship over a retired scrapyard orbiting the star Kepler 992. It will serve as both resource and reminder of their humble beginning." Across the chamber, alien delegates murmured, "A scrapyard. That was the Union's gift." Some smiled politely. Others laughed. No one thought humans would refuse. On Earth, the broadcast was met with silence. Crowds gathered in front of screens. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, and children watched the Alien Council give them what was basically a cosmic junkyard. Some felt insulted. Others felt angry. But one person saw something different. Admiral Kara Holt, commander of the United Earth Space Navy, stood before the massive display in the Orbital Command Center. Her sharp eyes followed every word of the alien announcement. She didn't look disappointed. She looked thoughtful. When the feed ended, her second-in-command, Captain Ren Dawson, muttered beside her, "So that's it? They give us trash and expect us to say thank you?" Kara didn't reply immediately. She turned to the holographic star map, zooming in on the Kepler 992 system. A small dim star appeared, surrounded by rings of debris and old metal wrecks. "Trash," she repeated softly, almost to herself. Then her expression changed. "No, Ren, that's not trash. That's potential." Ren blinked. "Potential?" Kara smiled slightly. "They gave us their junkyard, but in that junkyard lie pieces of every great empire that's ever existed. Old warships, abandoned engines, technologies they stopped using centuries ago. If we're clever enough, we can learn from every single one." Ren looked doubtful. "You want to build from scraps?" "Admiral, we don't even have the resources to maintain our own fleet. The Council practically handed us a dead star." "Then we'll give it life," Kara said calmly. "If this is their test, we'll pass it. If it's their insult, we'll turn it into our victory." 2 months later, the first human convoy arrived at Kepler 992. The sight took their breath away. The scrapyard was huge. Thousands of wrecks floating in endless silence. Old battleships, rusted cruisers, and the broken skeletons of alien dreadnoughts drifted around the dying orange star. There were torn hulls bigger than cities and engines still faintly glowing after centuries of disuse. It was a graveyard of the galaxy's forgotten power. Kara stood at the viewport of the command ship Aurora, her reflection merging with the field of wrecks beyond. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said softly. Ren frowned. "If your idea of beauty includes half-melted metal and leaking reactors, then sure." But Kara wasn't looking at the decay. She was seeing shapes, patterns, opportunities. We're not here to complain, Captain. We're here to rebuild. We'll start by cataloging every ship, every reactor core, every usable alloy. Understood, Wren said. And what should we call this operation? Kara's eyes glimmered. Project Leviathan. The work began immediately. Thousands of engineers, miners, and robotic drones filled the scrapyard. Human ships moved carefully between wrecks, towing metal fragments and scanning old systems. Every day brought discoveries. Alien weapons that defied physics. Armor that resisted heat beyond human understanding. Reactors that used energies Earth had never dreamed of. At first, the alien observers thought it was amusing. Union drones hovered around, recording the primitive humans as they struggled with alien tech. Galactic news networks made jokes about it. Humans playing with trash, one popular Varn broadcast said. Let's hope they don't blow themselves up. But the humans didn't stop. They worked day and night. They studied, learned, and adapted faster than any Union analyst predicted. What other species saw as impossible, humanity saw as a challenge. Within months, the scrapyard began to change. Massive ship frames were connected together by glowing welders. Human AIs learned to translate alien code. Young engineers invented new ways to merge plasma conduits from one species with cooling systems from another. What shouldn't have worked, did. Kara walked through the main assembly deck wearing a lightweight pressure suit. Sparks flew around her as teams welded ancient metal into new shapes. Report, Chief Engineer, she said into her comlink. A deep voice replied. Ma'am, the prototype fusion matrix from the Shurkai wreck is stable. We've connected it to our Terran cooling grid. It shouldn't explode anymore. That's a start, Kara said, smiling faintly. What about the Varn deflector array? Half online. Their tech's weird, Admiral. It bends gravity instead of light. Then learn how, she said simply. That was how she led. No shouting, no arrogance, just relentless calm. And under her command, humans began building something the galaxy had never seen before. One night, as the scrapyard floated in eerie silence, Wren visited the Admiral on the command bridge. The stars outside were faint. The dying sun flickered like an ember. You know, he said, the Council still thinks this is a waste of time. Their latest report said we're misusing resources on impractical experimentation. Kara looked out at the half-built ship in the distance, a giant shape emerging from the debris field. That's good, she said. Good? She turned, her expression fierce but proud. Let them laugh, Wren. The longer they laugh, the less they watch. He followed her gaze. The ship was enormous, its outline rough, its armor uneven, but somehow intimidating. It didn't look like an alien warship. It looked alive. What are we even building? Wren asked quietly. Kara's answer came after a moment. Something that doesn't need their approval. Something that will remind the galaxy that humans may start small. But we never stay small. Wren nodded slowly, understanding. A message, yes, she said. A message written in steel. Months turned into years. Project Leviathan grew. New engines roared to life. The scrapyard became a city of light and industry. Engineers who had once doubted began to believe. The massive warship, still incomplete, was already stronger than anything humanity had ever made. And every piece of it had a story. A hull from an alien dreadnought. A reactor from a forgotten empire. Weapons redesigned by human hands. It was not a ship of one species, it was a creation of many, united under human ingenuity. Then came the day Kara had been waiting for. She stood before her crew in the central bay, her voice carried through speakers to every corner of the scrapyard. My friends, she began. 2 years ago, the galaxy gave us their scraps. They thought they were giving us an insult. But what they really gave us was a challenge and a chance to prove who we are. She paused, looking around at the faces, dirty, tired, proud. Engineers, soldiers, builders, ordinary humans doing the impossible. We have taken their broken metal, their forgotten technology, and turned it into something new. Something powerful. Today we begin the final phase of Project Leviathan. When it awakens, the galaxy will know that Earth is not a weak world begging for approval. We are builders. We are dreamers. And when others give us junk, her voice grew firm, we make legends. The crowd erupted in cheers. The scrapyard lights flickered with energy. The ship, still silent, still waiting, hung in the background like a dark promise against the stars. Wren looked at it, then at her. Do you think they'll ever respect us? Kara smiled softly. No, she said. Not until they fear us first. And as the dying star burned faintly behind them, the humans continued their work, building the most feared warship the galaxy would ever know. The scrapyard was no longer a silent graveyard. It had become a city of sparks, lights, and constant motion. Massive cranes lifted alien hulls while smaller drones scuttled like mechanical ants, pulling panels, conduits, and reactors from centuries-old wrecks. Everywhere, humans moved with precision, determination, and a quiet pride. Every piece of discarded metal held a story, and every story was about to become part of something greater. Admiral Kara Holt walked among them in her standard uniform, lightweight but durable, as she observed the progress. The humans had been working for nearly 3 years, and the ship they were building, Project Leviathan, was beginning to take shape. It was enormous, stretching thousands of meters, a hybrid of alien and human design. Unlike any warship in the galaxy, it was rough, angular, and powerful-looking, as if the debris of countless civilizations had been reborn into a single living machine. Kara paused in front of a massive assembly bay where engineers were connecting the Varn deflector arrays to human energy conduits. Sparks flew, and the sound of welding echoed through the structure. She turned to the chief engineer, Dr. Liana Morrow, a genius who had joined Project Leviathan in its earliest days. "How's the deflector array coming along?" Kara asked. Liana wiped soot from her face. It's working better than we expected. The alien tech was unstable at first, but with our recalibrations, it's not just holding, it's learning, it adapts. I think it will be stronger than any shield we've ever built." Kara nodded. "Good, we need it to be stronger. The Union isn't going to leave us alone once they realize what we're building." Liana's eyes sparkled. "Let them come. They won't understand it anyway." Meanwhile, across the scrapyard, human engineers were working on the fusion core, the heart of Leviathan. It was a combination of Shirkai plasma technology and human energy grids, designed to produce more power than any ship of its size had ever generated. Dozens of sensors monitored the unstable energy flows, while AI programs adjusted and stabilized them in real time. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and the entire structure could have exploded. A young engineer, Eli Navarro, monitored a plasma conduit that arced across the hull. Sweat ran down his forehead, but his hands moved with skill and confidence. He had joined Project Leviathan because he believed in humans, because he believed that even from scraps something legendary could be built. "Core stabilization at 82%, Eli reported, adjusting energy flow to compensators. A calm voice replied, "Good, keep it steady. We're almost there." It was Echo, the AI that humans had designed specifically for Leviathan. Unlike any other AI, Echo could think, adapt, and even anticipate human decisions. Its voice was neutral, almost soothing, but its presence was felt everywhere, embedded in the ship's systems. Eli smiled. "Echo, you're getting smarter every day," the AI replied, acknowledged. "Learning efficiency at 79%. Your oversight is satisfactory." Eli laughed. "I'll take that as a compliment." As the days passed, the humans worked tirelessly. Project Leviathan was no longer just a ship. They were building a weapon, a fortress, and a symbol. Every crew member, from engineers to pilots to technicians, understood the importance of what they were creating. It was a silent rebellion against the galaxy that had underestimated them. Every piece of alien scrap they integrated became proof that humans could make miracles out of what others considered useless. One night, Kara stood on the observation deck, looking out at the slowly forming warship. The ship was massive, a dark silhouette against the faint glow of the Kepler 992 star. Its hull was jagged, intimidating, yet elegant in its chaos. Lights from internal systems glowed like stars, illuminating sections of the ship that had once been alien monuments of war. Beside her, Ren Dawson spoke softly. "Do you think they'll ever understand it? The Union, I mean." Kara shook her head. "No, they can't. They think in rules and patterns and what has been proven. Humans don't always follow rules. We invent, we adapt, and sometimes we defy the impossible." Ren looked at the ship again. "It's beautiful, in a way." "Not just beautiful," Kara said, her eyes narrowing with focus. "It's dangerous. That's what makes it perfect." The next stage of Project Leviathan was even more ambitious, the ship's AI integration. Echo was designed to control every system, adapt to threats, and coordinate thousands of moving parts in real time. Unlike other warships, Leviathan wouldn't need dozens of separate operators. Echo could predict enemy moves, optimize weapon systems, and even repair minor damages autonomously. It was the ultimate combination of human ingenuity and alien technology. Dr. Morrow worked tirelessly on the integration. She connected alien neural nets to human processing cores, bridging technologies separated by centuries of evolution. Her hands moved over holographic interfaces, merging code, testing pathways, and simulating thousands of battle scenarios. "Admiral," she said one evening, looking up from the display, "Echo is almost ready. It can run full simulations of entire fleets. If the Union thinks they can challenge us, it will not be easy." Kara nodded. "Then let's finish the work. The galaxy thinks we are small, weak, and foolish. When Leviathan awakens, they will realize how wrong they were." Months became years. The scrapyard was now unrecognizable. It had been transformed from a graveyard of broken ships into a living factory, a hive of human activity. Leviathan's massive hull stretched across thousands of meters, adorned with weapons scavenged from countless civilizations. Every gun turret and plasma cannon had been recalibrated for human use. Every shield, engine, and propulsion system had been fused with human engineering, creating something wholly new. And yet, Leviathan was more than just a collection of parts. It was a machine with a soul. Echo's AI gave it awareness. It could think, react, and adapt. The humans had not just built a ship. They had built a partner. Leviathan would not only follow commands, it would anticipate them. It would become a living extension of humanity's will. One day, as the final pieces were being installed, an unexpected signal appeared on human sensors. It was faint, distant, but unmistakable. A patrol fleet from the Galactic Union was approaching Kepler 992. "They're here," Wren said, tension rising in his voice. Kara didn't flinch. She studied the approaching ships, their forms gleaming in alien metals. "They're coming to inspect," she said calmly. "Or perhaps to see what we've been doing with their precious scrap. Either way, they will be disappointed." The human crews worked faster, ensuring Leviathan's systems were operational. Weapons recalibrated, shields tested, engines warmed. Echo's voice filled the ship. "Admiral, the fleet signature is consistent with standard inspection protocols. However, they are heavily armed." "So just tactical readiness," Kara smiled faintly. "Echo, show them what humans can do." The Union ships drew closer, confident. To them, Leviathan was just another human attempt at building from scraps. A primitive, half-finished warship that could do nothing against trained fleets. They had underestimated humans before. This time they were about to regret it. Kara's voice echoed through the command center, firm and unwavering. "All crews prepare for activation. Project Leviathan is entering its final stage. This is what we've worked for. Remember, this is not just a ship. This is a statement." Across the scrapyard, Leviathan's massive hull seemed to hum with energy. Lights blazed, engines thrummed, and weapons aligned. For the first time, the warship felt alive, not just as metal, but as a living machine, capable of more than any one human mind could imagine. Wren watched beside Kara. "Do you think they're ready for this?" Kara's eyes never left the ship. "They won't be, not for a long time." And as the Union fleet approached, Leviathan waited silently, the ultimate combination of human courage, ingenuity, and defiance. From scraps, humanity had built a legend.